You must be able to command your aura and return it back to your conscious field. Your aura has been studied and understood for decades by the modern technology that you understand, simply by understanding the frequencies or the vibrations of how AM and FM radio works, simply by understanding the term the ionosphere as to how a telephone conversation can occur with cell phones, and like what is the magic between me and you being able to speak, and you're in Spain and I'm in New Jersey. And that technology has always been the news, the business of entertainment, keeping you distracted from understanding yourself. And they did it in other ways, right? Libraries are limited. You would not find a lot of what I'm saying in the libraries unless you were trained a certain way. And back then, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, it was a lot more challenging to be born with the inner knowing. You know, you were probably born like that, but again, the entertainment business was heavy with normalcy. It was very dense during these times of this living. So people were just living normal lives, right? So the dark forces, they were like in the darkest aspects of our reality. So you didn't feel like you needed to find yourself in a deeper sense because you never felt tested. So you could have actually have been born here 30 years ago or 40 years ago, and in the 80s, 90s, right? Maybe even early 2000s, you would have felt a sense of chill, peace, family, parties, you know what I mean? The scariest thing would be, I don't know, divorce, would be death of a family or yourself, and those were the only things you really worry about. Okay, getting fired, right? Horrible, all horrible, but again, that would have been the worst thing that you would have been having to worry about. And that's exactly how they wanted you. Because even those times, they were siphoning your aura. They were aura harvesting. Aura harvesting is no different than if you think about how we eat chicken or animals. How we collect all of these types of animals and we harvest it, and then what do? We sell it, currency, right? So farmer currency is so much more profound than just money. But we only see the money, we don't see actually how the money is actually transcends between hands and between intent. Eventually when you start realizing that money doesn't exist because everything that you have to pay for or that you're actually buying or that you're actually receiving money for in transaction, it almost always comes back to something that's free. I mean, if you freely had your own farm and you had your own chickens and you grabbed your own eggs, you pay nobody. That is human nature, to live free that way. It's also human nature to live free from what energy is. Electricity. There's actual electricity that has never really required generators to extract from in the ionosphere. Making it sound like it's new science now. All they're doing is rediscovering what existed, what was already put away from our remembrances, intelligently so. You, my friend, you're a byproduct of this elaborate chess match of the spiritual warfare that started minimally 10,000 years ago. You could say, I'm not part of this game, I'm not playing, I don't even care. Trust, they're energy harvesting you just the same. Oh, I'm healthy, I'm taking care of myself, dude. It's like a prisoner would be a compliment for you. You're simply just a slave to the mind that you would even care less. Work out as being a slave. Like you're the in-house slave, man. Seriously, you're an in-house slave. And y'all know what I'm talking about when I say that. It means that, you know, my master is just taking care of me. I don't even got to call him my master. I have a cool master, bro. I don't even see my master. He come in once every 100 years, every time I reincarnate. Master puts me back in because I'm strong. I take care of myself. I work out, play sports, become famous, successful, get married, retire. I die. Took care of myself. Did the best I could. That's the self-mastery of not knowing or caring, not wanting to know that you are a fucking prisoner. This is beyond anger. This is rage as the peel of the apple. This is spiritual rage. The only way that one can anchor a memory into you from 10,000 years ago within your ancestral line is through these powerful emotions to anchor into your DNA. Best believe they try to invoke and to activate your rage, but you kept and stayed within your lower mind. And I'm talking about a certain generation, like closer to mine and older. And now, as the newer generations are being born in alignment with Mother Earth's ascending, this is the reason why people are becoming more conscious. And I'm able to actually speak about these conversations because I used to speak about it all the time in the 90s, 2000. It was just within using the field of Xingyi Chuan, Qigong, martial arts. And I always followed the golden rule. The golden rule is that you open the door and who's ready and willing and able comes in. And there's always a bridge, right? So the bridge would be that they're interested in learning Kung Fu. And once they got past the first level, if they stayed within the level of Kung Fu, and those of y'all that train under me, if in case you ever run into this video, they'll be able to be a testimony. People know this is a real thing. In my 20s and my 30s, or more in my teens and my 20s. When we trained, after several months, oh man, hidden doors opened up for both of us because it allowed me the ability to speak and exercise my throat chakra with what I already knew, what I already trained with, and in. And unfortunately, these were considered or called inner schools with no title or name. And I didn't even think back then to start writing into script. No, because my mind was to work in healing what was sponged into me. But that's another story. That's not the intent of my of this video. But now, more than ever, this is going beyond to extremes of simply, because it's not simple, it's just horrible, energy harvesting. This is now creating and manifesting and changing and transcribing your aura into the digital world. Interlacing a new technology through nanotechnology, not limited to what you've been hearing with conspiracies and facts within the last 5-10 years. No, this has been an elaborate ascension process for I don't know how long. They need to create a false sense of heaven, an imprisonment or a prism, a false light, the mirrored illusion keeping you within a lattice of this molecular structure with nanotechnology rearrangement technology using sound, cymatics, and technology, so that when certain frequencies are turned on, they will control not just your behavior, but your action or inaction. This is scriptural. It just sounded very biblical. But there has always been technologies that existed in the ethers, and they say satellites, that are being reprogrammed once again to turn on, to control entire towns, cities, societies, simply by altering your reality. And the only way I'm going to be able to prove it to you, if you do nothing else in your life, is by you being in it. And I'm still not going to be able to prove it to you then because you're in it. Trust in when I was training in Xingyi back in the 1800s, I probably was there when I was 18, 19. And here I am showing people how to like vibrate my spinal cord and bringing it out and actually like shaking up by choice your lungs or your kidneys and your liver just by putting my intent there. Showing you how to take the energy from my intent with my mind into an organ and shutting you down. I didn't care how big you were. And then trying to teach you so you did it to me in return. There was always an exchange. There were still people that weren't interested. So I got so frustrated, I stopped teaching. That wasn't a good thing. I had to start working within myself, and that's how I became an acupuncturist. And here I am again, and that was a divine pause for me. But I go back, and I there's a lot of rage in there because, yeah, I feel like I could have continued to work with people, but I realized I was meant to honor a certain timeline because in this past timeline, in this incarnation of mine, I was supposed to absorb, you know. Every single relationship, as far as school, life, even relationship with my mom, had to be part of this entire sense of how I work in the divine realms, in this human incarnation, so that I can now assess and change the molecular structure of my reality to not make it separate with the reality of what I project out there. The outcome I cannot control. However, as long as I'm aligned with love knowing that I'm not alone. The laws of belief and faith, and keeping them with integrity as an integration system to allow for the expansion of my eruption of my intent to be projected outward. I needed to master that within this embodiment because it's a lot more challenging, seemingly impossible to do that in this timeline. It was a lot easier for people to do it naturally just by being born, and it was because, again, the ionosphere wasn't so heavily invaded, infiltrated, distorted, filthy. We don't just breathe air, we breathe energy. We contrast and expand energy. We're always repelling, absorbing, living, dying. Again, to an alchemist is transducing or transforming an aspect of the intention of one plane, of the intention of that particle into another. But we're so divinely created, we don't see a separation. So again, we only think that living and dying is within the structure and the construct of our vessel. Thinking that we were just lucky, and reversing the polarity of gratitude. Oh, thank God. Oh, my God. Thank God I'm here. Oh, my Jesus is Lord. Damn it. Shit. Excuse me. So, you know what I'm saying, right? All right. That's church humor. Come on. Don't front. I've been there. I've been in churches. The emotions are strong. And when you project it out and not knowing, that's energy harvesting. When you say, I don't need to know, I just have faith, I know God is with me. You're the easiest. You're the most powerful one, actually. But you're like a Duracell battery. Forget ever ready, man. You're Duracell. You get harvested and you last an entire lifetime. And man, come on. We're all conditioned that way. Because if I told you stop eating chicken right now, right? You're feeding off of the energy of the chicken. Yeah, I ain't gonna stop. So don't get mad at these other entities and beings that actually consume your aura and they harvest you no different than a chicken. Why do you think they have you eating chicken all the time? Because just like a chicken, you just, all you do is talk, run. And maybe you're a rooster, you'll fight here and there. You don't know how not to be consumed. So you have to keep eating more of who you are. This is beyond being vegan. I don't even call myself vegan or vegetarian or anything, yet I don't eat meat by choice. If I was led to eat a chicken tomorrow, trust, I'm having a whole conversation with this soul. Actually, chicken told me to eat it. There are reasons for that, and I'm not going to get there or go there. Meaning that when you consume, it's no longer simply consumption, it's actually a transference of energy. So if you keep consuming somebody like me, right, and you don't know how to pour back into me, or me to you, in friendship, relationship, well, the universe eventually, they'll account for every single thing of that. And the reason why you don't see the instantaneous karma as an example right away is because you're strong mind. Or most likely it's because I'm near you. I'm stronger. And because of that, within my observation of seeing how sickness occurs within my life, I allow it to happen. It may not be all conscious right away. But once I exit out of that relationship, right, the chicken coop, then everything that needed to be accounted for has to, because that's how energy works. So it keeps happening that way. That's why karma is like a hamster wheel that never ends. It's a reincarnation cycle that never ends, seems to end. But once you start honoring that system and you realize that it's not that it's repeating, but it's like a, right? It's like a helix. It's a helix of you're seeing and experiencing the same thing, but you're never the same person twice when you circle back into something. And once you observe your karma, then karma becomes your new form of consumption. Now you expand it from the chicken to the karma. Right? And once you're full and you digested karma, then you're like, what's dharma? See this portal here. And I know it's not mental, but I'm using humor. I'm using humor and metaphors, but somewhere in the middle lies a perspective, a reintegration, and an alignment. That everything that's an illusion is as real as you're going to make it. So everything that I just said, contrasting, saying, no, chicken's good for me, bro. It's holy. I pray for it. So your belief ain't more real than mine's, and mine's is not more real than yours. However, that's what creates your projected reality. So we're like all of these individual projections of realities. Ain't nothing wrong with that. That's part of the experience of being a human within your vessel. Separation, individuality, character, and then eventually the relinquishing or the shedding of character. Until you're ready, people in your life have to die, right? And that's the universe preparing you. Otherwise, that we, just like a fat chicken, you know, nice food, you know, get full, you're hungry, you want to eat something all up, you know, consumption. Well, there's a limitation to that, right? And because we're not even aware of the limitations of not just thinking that we're supposed to physically fill up our stomach, or not knowing the difference between hunger and requiring energy. I have a video on that, like all the way back in my YouTube video, somewhere back there, like a year ago. Then it's seemingly impossible to even understand what I'm talking about or even care. Forget about understanding. I'm sure you can understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything crazy. Well, it's crazy, but it's not like... I'm not speaking like a scientist. Am I? No. But you're not going to care to because you're too full down here. All your blood is in here. It's no longer survival mode. You're just like, this is how we're supposed to live, dude. Then that's when you start getting righteousness, virtuosity. Then you start getting all of this sick masculine behavior. And then a lot of women start to mimic that, right? They start to want to mimic that because, I'm tired of fighting these guys, man. You know, and I start to reenact on that. So you have all these things happening right now, which is part of the human experience because we all like to play, right? You're a little kid, you want to sometimes. I mean, back in my day, you know, I used to put on my mom's shoes and her boots. She had these red boots. My mom was like 4'10". She's 4'10". And put on her boots. And I'm like, Mom, look at me. I want to see what it was like walking like my mom when she was like 20. So I would ask her questions, right? And I'd still do it if I could. But my feet won't fit into her boots. I don't think she wears boots anymore. It's curiosity. It's pure. It's beautiful. And part of curiosity is to become who you're not. And sometimes it's an entire life. Sometimes it's for a season. And these are the aspects to help you to be able to see the aspects of your precious nature. But your precious nature is being siphoned. And it's important for you to start calling back your aura. Your aura, when it's disengaged, it's an energy field that's susceptible to all kinds of attacks. That's already happening. Demons are easy. Demons are easy. Parasites are easy compared to this. You could be completely vegan, consuming all this nano gold liquid, nothing wrong with it. Bursting open, this is what people are saying, the new age people, bursting open your third eye so you can finally see and wake up and still be energy harvested, dude. Until you identify, just like you build your physique and your muscles, or your physique in your mind, or your third eye physique, or the physique of your emotional state body. Put it all together, create a symphony in your way. And with your mind, you must command the return, the reprogramming of your aura. Because until you realize that your breath is not separate from your aura, that your senses, your 5 major sensory system, is not separate from your aura. Your entire central nervous system is not separate from your hair. Your hair is an extension of the hair. And it's also not separate from the ethers in communication. They've made movies on this. Connecting and communication. The same with your aura. And the only way for you to understand your aura is like rebirthing a new version or a new sense of yourself. You have to see yourself sincerely, curiously, with complete, utter love, with patience, with kindness, but with readiness. This will activate more of your clarity that's necessary. Number one. Then integrity. That means you accounted for everything that I said as an example. And now you're creating an algorithm. And with clarity, you're now writing it down. You're integrating your system with your aura, with your hair, with your breath, with me, book me. and three, the release of. There you go, the 3 steps. That's all you need. Clarity, integrity, or release mechanism. It's a command. It's like completing the algorithm and allow your algorithm to learn you, because as the engineer that you are, the inner alchemist that you are, with your inner intelligence, the beauty is that you are reacclimating and reintroducing your actual aura. And once you do that, and as long as you start to do it and you start putting it where it's like me waking up every day wanting to play ball because I grew up wanting to, and as Kobe Bryant would say, he trained like 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day. Sometimes he'll like not sleep at night. That's how he became the best. You know, he wanted to show that he could be just as good, if not better, than Michael Jordan. He was actually a fan of his, right? For all you Kobe Bryant studious fans, so here's right? And he would say it, I've seen it in interviews. He would say, if you can't wake up and your heart's not aligned, you have no joy, then why are you doing this? Get out of this business. So your business is your aura, because it's their business to manage yours. That's why. You signed off every day that you're not doing this into their incorporation, into their corporation. That's incorporeal soul. And in Chinese medicine, that's one of the 5 elements. When you start understanding aspects of your soul, your corporeal soul is related to breath and your lungs into the ethers. One of the 5 elements, the ether. That's metal, for if you want to look up a 5-element theory. And if you're into Kung Fu, that's the self-mastery and no longer separating the ether from your colon, your lung, and the large intestine. What did I just say? I just say that. The colon and your lung, which the large intestine is the colon. And that's like the first thing in, last thing out. Breathing in, right? Out. Speaking is a collaboration between your ability to let go and to set commands. To inability to let go is because you're not clear enough. You're constipated in life. Your colon. So you're not going to be able to speak. You're going to be anal retentive. That's why a lot of people in corporate, they're anal retentive and they get mad. They can't even argue. Right? You know what I'm saying? They made movies on people like that because it's laughed upon and it's accepted. That's an integration system. They accept that. You have bosses like that. That's crazy. And it's because they have an inability to release. And it shows in the lungs. So that's the connection between the lungs and the colon. So that's 5-element theory. That's just the metal. So it's in Chinese medicine. It's in Kung Fu, classical Kung Fu, within the Xingyi system, the Hongga system. Whoever uses the 5 elements as far as the 5 powers. So there's Qigongs that are built with someone who needs to kind of like reconnect with the aura using different schools. But the constant is the same with what I'm saying. See, what I'm speaking of, if I would have taught you the way classically they taught me and the way it was supposed to be taught, and I probably would have taught you like what was like this, was to spell out nothing that I'm saying right now. I would have been writing it in books, and I have a lot of journals and stuff like that on it. Or people who asked. If you didn't ask, I would not speak. But right now, we have to get military strong with our individuality. And I would say that's Christ consciousness connected, finally connected as unity. One for all for one. So this is a command. I need you. You need to reconnect with your aura. Everything that I just said has what you need. If you didn't work on it already. And if you have been and you feel stifled, then you ran into this video on purpose. You created this. Thank me later. And once you take back and activate your aura, then you'll understand your Merkaba. That's one school. But it's still the same seed, the constant. You don't even need to know what a Merkaba is. You'll know. You are the key. But if you don't know that, they've replicated and cloned your key. Going into your doors, changing your behavior, changing your natural process. Let's say that you were naturally coming into this earth to heal yourself and others, and you're having a hard time. You may never even get there. But they amplified it to make it virtually, as in virtual reality, virtually impossible now for you to do it. Keeping you within that negative feedback loop to keeping you sane, which for me, when you're on the outside looking in, that's within. Insane. So essentially you had to be insane to reclaim your inner sanity. And once you finally claim with complete clarity, integration in the release off, as in your colon, the metal release, then you understand within the 5-element theory how earth is the mother of metal. As a child, you're now becoming an ancient soul again. You can't stay a child all the time. Then you become the parent of the water, which is the honoring of your ancestors, as in the age of Pisces. The power that they had, that they created into your entire vessel as you enter the age of Aquarius, which is air, which is ether, which is age of information. But with a disconnect, they'll digitalize your anal retention. And there's a bee flying around here, and that's a beautiful confirmation that even though I have strong emotions and energy, I'm in alignment with the harmonics. The harmonics of intention within the heart. When you do that and regain and reclaim your aura, your mind has no choice but to come back home to your heart. See, it's not your soul that was trapped. It was your mind. The books will tell you it was your soul. Soul didn't have to come to you. That's why the soul could just exit your body. Which in many cases, your soul does do that. They call them NPCs, I guess. But it doesn't mean that your soul is gone. Even them, they're just now fragmented with a mind that's so strong, the electrical component of your magnetism, that you forgot to receive and to attract within yourself. That's why you come back home to your heart. Your heart doesn't go home to your mind. That's sick patriarchy. Receiving, expecting nothing in return, but doing it anyway, because the beauty of the nature of your self-observation of doing so is the nutrition. You never have to eat again. And in this way, the DoD, the government, all of these entity formations, even if they had you sign a contract, which they did, you actually bring your soul back to life, and there's no technology, not even nanotechnology, that can harvest your aura anymore. You become the living detox system. How do you know? How would you know? It's because you start moving and living, as an example, in physical proof, as physical proof, the ley lines, where you're supposed to, as you're intended, you're calling. When life starts to collapse on you, when you go through distraught as a human would, that's when you light your white candle, your yellow candle, your red candle. That's when you go into your altar of self. Maybe you have a physical one out there. That's when you call on your ancestors within yourself and thank them for reminding you. When you no longer call on protection, but you affirm the integration system that you've always been protected. When you make all of that conscious to you. And that bee that was flying around me becomes the wealthiest moment of your experience. Every moment. That's when you graduate and you're no longer being harvested. One love.